Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab.
Hi there.
Today we're embarking on, well, a really enriching path, I think. We're looking at boosting your English proficiency through the power of inspirational stories.
Yeah, it's a really compelling method. Language acquisition, it goes beyond just grammar rules and vocabulary lists, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's really about connecting with culture, with emotions, real-life experiences.
Absolutely. And I think for those of you listening who are really striving to, elevate your English, narratives offer this really captivating and frankly potent way to enhance your skills across the board.
Definitely. And in this deep dive, we'll sort of uncover how these encouraging accounts can help you expand your vocabulary, grasp some pretty intricate grammar, gain cultural understanding, and we'll even touch upon some practical exercises you can actually use.
Sounds good. So we'll explore how stories filled with tales of fortitude, success, human connection, how they can really transform your English learning journey. Okay, let's dive in.
Great. So stories. They're just a fundamental way humans communicate, right?
Right, universal.
Exactly. They have this amazing capacity to bridge linguistic and cultural divides. And for more advanced learners, engaging with narratives has some real distinct advantages.
Okay, like what specifically?
Well, first off, there's learning in context, new words, grammatical structures. They're naturally woven into meaningful situations, which just makes them considerably easier to remember. Think about it. Our brains are kind of wired to recall info better when it's linked to an event or an emotion in a story.
That makes so much sense. It's totally different from just memorizing isolated words from a list, isn't it?
Precisely, yeah. And then there's the emotional connection. Inspirational stories, by their nature, they stir feelings. And this emotional link, well, learning studies show it strengthens memory and it fuels your motivation. It's a bit like how a powerful song can just stick with you for years.
Yeah, or when a film really gets to you, you remember the details so much more clearly.
Exactly that. Plus, stories reveal cultural subtleties. You start picking up on idioms, nuanced humor, cultural references, things that are really crucial for genuine fluency.
Right, the unspoken stuff.
Yeah, those are the things that aren't always explicitly taught in a classroom.
Got it.
And, just from a language perspective, narratives often use sophisticated grammar. Things like conditional sentences, reported speech, they really stretch your understanding and your ability to follow complex ideas.
Okay, this is getting really interesting. Is there research that actually backs this up?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Findings in second language acquisition suggest that this kind of narrative-based learning can significantly boost both understanding and retention compared to just, memorizing facts in isolation.
Wow.
So by really engaging with these stories, immersing yourself, you're not just learning English, you're kind of experiencing it, living it.
Okay, that's compelling. So what kinds of stories should learners focus on? Are some better than others?
Well, to get the most out of it, it's really best to focus on stories that genuinely grab your interest. Think about what subjects or types of accounts you personally find engaging.
Okay, that makes sense. Can you give us some examples? Categories, maybe?
Sure. One big category is personal triumph. Stories about overcoming adversity, tales of individuals who've triumphed over really significant challenges.
Right.
A powerful example, obviously, is the story of Malala Yousafzai. Her courageous fight for education, her resilience is just incredible.
An incredibly inspiring story, yeah.
What other types? Then you have narratives of, let's say, professional success. Stories focusing on innovators, entrepreneurs, people who've shown remarkable perseverance and brought about big changes. Figures like Elon Musk or Oprah Winfrey come to mind. Their journeys often highlight things like innovation, resilience, hard work.
People who really push boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. Another really compelling category is cultural journeys. These often explore immigrant experiences, themes of identity, belonging, like the kind of things Jhumpa Lahiri writes about so beautifully.
Yes.
Those stories offer really profound insights into navigating different cultural landscapes.
Give you a window into different perspectives.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And we can also learn a lot from simple accounts of kindness, real life stories where people have shown compassion, community support, especially in tough times.
Those can be really powerful too.
You really can. And finally, historical milestones, accounts of significant social movements, like the civil rights movement, perhaps, things that have profoundly shaped our world.
Right.
These narratives often use more formal language and give you crucial historical context.
It sounds like each of these different types would offer pretty distinct language and cultural lessons then.
Absolutely. You might find more formal language in, say, historical accounts, whereas personal stories often use more everyday conversational English. That variety is key. It exposes you to a much wider range of how the language is actually used.
Okay, this is great. So let's maybe dig into some specific examples now. How can these stories from inspirational figures actually teach us English? Let's start with Malala Yousafzai.
Okay, Malala, her story. Advocating for girls' education, even facing, grave danger.
Yeah.
It just powerfully shows resilience and the huge impact words can have. Her speeches are amazing examples of persuasive communication.
So what kind of vocabulary could we pick up from her story, for instance?
Well, her speeches are packed with strong, advanced vocabulary. Words like advocate, to publicly support a cause, or resilience, that ability to bounce back from difficulties. Then there's amplify, like to increase the reach of something, empower, giving someone authority, and unalienable, describing rights that just can't be taken away. These are weighty words.
They really are impactful words. How would you suggest someone practice using them?
Well, a good way is to try building your own sentences. Use these words in different contexts that mean something to you. Maybe say something like, she advocated tirelessly for the unalienable right to education. Or think about related words for resilience. Maybe think of fortitude or perseverance. It helps deepen the understanding.
And what about grammar? What structures in her speeches are particularly useful for learners?
Malala often uses complex sentences really effectively to get nuanced ideas across. Like, take this bit. If we believe in equality, if we believe in the power of education, then we must act.
The repetition.
Yeah, exactly. That uses conditional clauses, the if we believe parts, and parallelism, repeating that structure for emphasis. It creates this really powerful, persuasive rhythm.
So how does understanding that help us as learners?
Well, recognizing and maybe trying to use these structures helps you express more complex thoughts and arguments more precisely in English. Conditionals are essential for hypotheticals, right? And parallelism adds that impact and clarity. You could try writing your own sentence like that, maybe about a cause you care about.
And her delivery. How can we work on speaking and pronunciation by listening to her?
Her speaking style is so clear and measured. It makes her speeches brilliant for practicing things like stress, intonation, pausing.
Yeah.
Notice how she emphasizes key words, education, rights, equality, to show her conviction.
Yeah, you can hear it.
And observe the pauses she uses. They let the message sink in. A really practical exercise is to record yourself reading parts of her speeches and then compare it to the original.
That's a really hands-on tip. And culturally, what insights can we get from her story?
Well, her story powerfully highlights the value placed on education and gender equality in many societies, and it connects to broader global values. When she uses phrases like unalienable rights, it echoes core principles you find in key documents in English-speaking cultures. It shows how language and culture are really intertwined. You can maybe reflect on how her experiences relate to education or cultural norms where you live.
Okay, great example. Let's shift gears. How about someone like Elon Musk? Very different figure. What can we learn from his story and communication?
Right. Musk. His journey is all about, disruptive innovation, determination. It offers a different set of language lessons. His communication often mixes very technical language with more informal, everyday English, which kind of reflects the different audiences he talks to, I suppose.
So what kind of vocabulary stands out with him?
You'll often hear terms like disrupt, meaning to fundamentally change an industry.
Right.
Iterate, like repeating a process to improve it. Paradigm, a sort of standard model or pattern. Tenacity, that persistent determination. And skepticism, having doubts or questioning things. These are big words in tech and innovation circles.
Can you give an example of how he might use one of those?
Sure. You might hear him say something like, Tesla aimed to disrupt the established automotive paradigm.
Got it.
Or SpaceX continually iterates on its rocket designs. You could try using these words yourself when talking about technology or maybe new business ideas.
And grammar-wise, any particular patterns in his speech worth noting?
Well, because he makes so many bold predictions about the future, you often see reported speech when people talk about him.
Oh, okay.
So if he says directly, we will establish a base on Mars, it often gets reported indirectly as Musk said that they would establish a base on Mars. Notice the shift in the verb, tense, and pronouns.
Right, the tense shift.
Yeah. Practicing converting direct quotes from his interviews into reported speech is actually a really good grammar exercise.
His speaking style can be quite unique too, right? Fast-paced sometimes. How can we use that to improve listening skills?
Yeah, his delivery can be rapid, and he often uses a lot of technical jargon. It can definitely be a challenge. A good strategy is to try and focus on the core keywords, especially those related to tech or his companies. Try to anticipate topics based on the context. And honestly, using transcripts alongside audio recordings of his talks or interviews is super helpful for comprehension.
That makes sense. And culturally, what does his communication style reflect?
Well, Musk's whole narrative really embodies that American dream idea, risk-taking innovation, very Silicon Valley.
Right.
And his somewhat informal language, even when discussing complex tech, kind of shows how adaptable English can be across different contexts. Might be interesting to compare his style to leaders or innovators in your own culture.
Okay, fascinating contrast. Let's look at our third example, Shimpa Lahiri. Her writing explores identity, belonging. What linguistic lessons are there?
Lahiri. Her prose is just beautiful, eloquent, introspective. It's a really rich source for sophisticated vocabulary. You'll find words like estrangement, feeling alienated, nostalgia, that longing for the past, assimilate, adopting customs of a group, ambivalence, having mixed feelings, and epiphany, that sudden moment of realization. These words add real depth.
They definitely carry emotional weight. How does she typically use them?
Well, in her book, The Namesake, for example, she might describe a character's estrangement from their family's traditions or the intense nostalgia brought on by certain smells or sounds from home. You could try using these words in your own writing. Maybe reflect on personal experiences or create fictional scenes exploring similar themes.
And are there any specific grammatical structures she favors that are useful for learners?
Her introspective style often makes use of the subjunctive mood. It's used to express hypothetical situations, wishes, emotions.
The subjunctive can be tricky.
It can be, yeah. For instance, she might write something like, if only he were to understand her perspective. That subjunctive were signals it's a wish or contrary to reality.
Right.
Practicing sentences using the subjunctive, maybe expressing your own wishes or hypothetical ideas, is good practice.
Her writing is also known for being very descriptive, isn't it? How can studying her style help us become better writers?
Absolutely. Pay close attention to how she uses sensory details, vivid adjectives, imagery to paint pictures of sights, sounds, smells. It really pulls the reader in. Notice how she develops characters, often revealing their inner thoughts and conflicts through subtle actions or dialogue. And look at her transitions, how she moves smoothly between ideas. Try writing a short descriptive piece yourself, maybe inspired by her themes, and really focus on those techniques.
And the cultural insights from her stories.
Lahiri's work brilliantly illuminates the complexities of the immigrant experience, particularly in English-speaking places. Themes of cultural hybridity, generational differences.
Yeah.
She also sometimes weaves in phrases from other languages like Indian English words, which introduces learners to the linguistic diversity within diaspora communities. It makes you think about identity and belonging in your own context, too.
Okay, those are three fantastic but very different examples. So we have these great resources. How do we actually use them effectively? What are some practical strategies?
Right. So it's not just about passively consuming these stories. To really maximize the learning, you need an active approach.
What does that look like?
Well, first, actively curate your own collection. Find books, podcasts, films, news stories that genuinely interest you and match your level, more or less. Diversify.
Okay.
Then, engage actively while reading or listening. That means maybe annotating texts, highlighting new words, summarizing key points in your own words afterwards, maybe even trying to predict what happens next in a story.
That makes sense, being more involved than just letting it wash over you.
Exactly. And don't underestimate speaking practice. Try retelling the stories you've read or heard in your own words. Maybe do some role-playing based on the characters or situations, or join a discussion group online or offline to talk about the stories.
And writing.
Writing is crucial too. Keep a journal reflecting on the stories or themes. Try some creative writing, maybe short stories inspired by what you've read. And if possible, get feedback on your writing, maybe from a language partner or tutor. Peer review is great. And of course, leverage technology. Language learning apps often have story features. Speech analysis tools can help with pronunciation. Using subtitles with films or videos can be really helpful too.
These are great practical tips. But what about challenges? Learners using this method might hit some roadblocks, right?
Oh, for sure. Dealing with complex or unfamiliar vocabulary is probably the most common one.
Yeah, that can be daunting.
It can. So, strategy 1, try to infer the meaning from the context first. Don't immediately reach for the dictionary. Strategy 2, look up the word, but also explore its word, family-related nouns, verbs, adjectives. That broadens your understanding.
Okay.
And strategy 3, use spaced repetition systems like flashcard apps to help memorize the really useful words over time.
What about cultural references that might go over our heads?
That's another common one. If something seems confusing culturally, do a little research on the context, historical background, social norms. Ask native speakers if you can. And comparing it to your own culture can often shed light on the differences or similarities.
And just keeping motivated. Learning takes time.
Absolutely. Maintaining motivation is key. Set clear, achievable goals for yourself, like reading one short story a week or learning 5 new words from a podcast episode. Track your progress somehow, maybe in a notebook. And importantly, celebrate your achievements. Acknowledge how far you've come. That really helps keep you going.
That's great advice. You also mentioned earlier the idea of creating our own inspirational stories. How does that specifically help with English learning?
Ah, yes. Crafting your own narratives is actually a fantastic way to solidify everything you're learning. It forces you to actively use the new vocabulary and grammar you've encountered, putting it into a meaningful context that you create.
Right, you're not just recognizing it, you're producing it.
Exactly. Plus, it gives you a chance to express your own thoughts, your experiences, your creativity in English. That's a huge confidence booster.
So if someone wanted to try this, what are the basic steps to writing their own, maybe short, inspirational story?
Okay, first, choose a theme or message that resonates with you, something you care about. Then, develop your characters. Give them clear motivations, maybe some challenges to overcome, perhaps even flaws to make them feel real. Structure your plot. Have a clear beginning setting the scene, a rising action building tension, a climax or turning point, and a resolution showing the outcome, and maybe a lesson learned.
Okay.
Then, focus on using vivid, descriptive language. Show, don't just tell. Use those sensory details we talked about with Lahiri. And finally, edit and revise carefully. Check for clarity, grammar, spelling, get it as polished as you can.
And once you've written something, what then?
Share it, if you're comfortable, of course. There are online platforms for creative writing. Language learning communities often have sections for sharing work, or share it with a language exchange partner or a teacher for feedback.
Getting feedback sounds important.
It's invaluable for improvement. And another idea, try recording yourself reading your own story aloud. That's great practice for pronunciation, intonation, and fluency.
This really brings it all together. It seems like this world of inspirational stories truly offers a huge amount for English learners.
It absolutely does. You know, from Malala's powerful advocacy, Musk's innovation, Lahiri's explorations of identity, each type of narrative brings unique language lessons and cultural insights. It really can enrich your learning journey significantly.
So I guess the key takeaways for our listeners are actively engage with these stories, really pay attention to the language being used, the vocabulary, the grammar, and maybe even try your hand at creating your own narratives to practice and build confidence.
Precisely. If you keep storytelling, sort of at the heart of your learning, you'll definitely see continued growth in your fluency and your confidence with English.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And for everyone listening, if you found this deep dive helpful and maybe even a little inspiring, please do like this video, share it with others who might benefit, and subscribe to the Learn English Lab YouTube channel for more language learning content.
Yeah, keep learning and keep finding stories that inspire you.
Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab.
Great to be here.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into practical English dialogues, the kind you can actually use every day.
Yeah, we're focusing on 3 really common situations: hotels, restaurants, and airports.
Exactly. The idea is to give you the language you need to handle these situations, confidently and naturally.
We'll look at some real-life examples, highlight key phrases, just help you speak English a bit more precisely in these contexts.
Okay, let's jump right in. How about we start with hotels? I mean, for a lot of trips, that's probably the first place you really need to use your English, right?
That's so true.
Yeah.
Checking in, asking for something, maybe even dealing with a small problem.
Yeah.
Knowing the right phrases makes it all much smoother.
So imagine you've just arrived. You walk up to the front desk. What happens first, typically?
Well, usually after a polite hello or good evening, the staff will often ask, do you have a reservation? It's pretty standard.
Okay. And assuming you do, what's a good response?
You can just say, yes, it's under the name, your last name. Simple as that. Gives them what they need right away.
Got it. And then they'll probably want to see some ID.
Almost always. They'll likely say something like, could you please show me your ID and the credit card used for the booking?
Ah, the credit card too. That's for security, I guess.
Yeah, it's standard procedure. So having those ready really does speed things up.
Good tip. What else might come up during check-in?
Well, when you hand over your documents, a simple, certainly here you are is fine. Then they'll often confirm the details like, okay, I see a reservation for a double room, non-smoking, for 3 nights. Is that correct?
And you just say, yes, that's right, assuming it is.
Precisely. Or correct them politely if something's wrong.
What about specific room requests? Like maybe you want a quiet room.
Sometimes they'll ask you first. They might say, would you prefer a room on a higher floor for the view, or maybe one closer to the elevator?
Oh, nice. And if you do have a preference?
You could say something like, a higher floor would be great, if possible. Adding that if possible sounds, more polite.
Right, less demanding. Good point. What about essentials, like Wi-Fi? You need to know that straight away.
Absolutely. You can ask, could you tell me about the Wi-Fi? Or how do I connect to the Wi-Fi?
And the typical answer would be?
Something like, of course. The Wi-Fi is complimentary. It helps to know complimentary means free here.
Ah, good vocabulary word.
Yeah, they'll continue. The network name is network name, and you'll find the password on your key card holder. Or maybe written down somewhere for you.
Okay, so key phrases there. It's under the name, could you please, and adding if possible for requests, politeness counts.
Definitely. Now, say you're in your room, you've unpacked a bit, and you realize you need something, extra towels maybe.
Yeah, that happens. How do you ask? Call the front desk.
Yep. You'd call and say something like, hello, this is room 305. Always give your room number first. Then, I was wondering if I could request some extra towels. Using I was wondering if is a really polite way to ask.
Good structure. Should you be specific about what kind of towels?
It helps. You could say, could I please have 2 more bath towels and maybe 1 hand towel?
And the hotel's response?
They'll likely say, certainly, I'll have housekeeping bring those up to you shortly, or I'll send someone up right away.
Housekeeping, that's the department that handles cleaning and room supplies.
Exactly. They might also ask, is there anything else I can assist you with at the moment? Just to check if you need more help.
Okay, what about room service? If you want to order food.
Similar process. Call down and ask, could I please have a room service menu sent up? Or maybe, how do I order room service?
And they'll guide you from there.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. I'll have one sent up right away. Or would you like me to connect you directly to room service now?
So, again, I was wondering if I could, is a great polite opener, and the word amenities. What does that cover exactly?
Amenities are basically all the extra facilities and services a hotel offers, like the pool, gym, Wi-Fi, room service, toiletries, all that stuff.
Gotcha. And how do you say that again?
It's psychmasmantes. Amenities.
Amenities, okay. Now let's talk about the less pleasant side. What if something goes wrong? Say, noise from the next room.
Right, it happens. The key is to be polite but clear. Call the front desk. Good evening, this is your name in room 212.
Start polite, state your room.
Yes. Then I'm having a bit of an issue with noise. It seems to be coming from the room next door.
Be specific about the problem.
Definitely helps. It sounds like quite loud music and talking, and it's going on for maybe an hour now. It's making it hard to relax.
Okay. And what can you expect the hotel to do?
They should apologize first. I'm very sorry to hear that, Mr. Mizomel's last name. I apologize for the inconvenience. That word inconvenience is common here.
Right, the disruption.
Then they should offer a solution. I can send our security team up to investigate. Or maybe, would you like me to see if we have a quieter room available for you?
What if you don't really want to move all your stuff?
You can say that. Thank you for the offer, but I'd prefer to stay in this room if the noise can be resolved.
Okay. And sometimes they might offer something extra.
Yes, especially if the problem was significant or persists. They might say, as a gesture of goodwill, we'd like to offer you complimentary breakfast tomorrow.
Ah, gesture of goodwill. Meaning something to make up for the trouble.
Exactly. The main takeaway when complaining is, stay calm, be specific, and state what you'd like to happen, if you have a preference.
Good advice. Don't just get angry. Okay, final hotel scenario. Checking out.
Right. Time to settle up. You can go to the desk and say, good morning, I'd like to check out. Or, could you prepare my bill, please?
Pretty straightforward. They'll likely ask how your stay was.
Often, yes. Did you enjoy your stay with us? It's nice to get some positive feedback if you can. Yes, it was lovely, thank you. The staff were very helpful.
Even a small compliment is good. Then the bill.
They'll present the bill or invoice. Here's your bill. It includes the room charges and one room service charge from last night. The total comes to amount.
Good to check it over quickly.
Always a good idea. Then they'll ask how you want to pay. How will you be settling the bill today?
And you just say by card or cash.
Yep. And you might want a receipt. Could I please get a receipt? You could add an email copy would be perfect if that's possible.
Handy. And then you're done.
Pretty much. A final thank you for a great stay from you. And they'll likely respond with, "You're welcome, safe travels, and we hope to see you again."
Okay, so could I have my bill, please, is key. And remember the silent P in receipts.
That's the one. Okay, ready to switch gears? How about restaurants?
Perfect. Another place where knowing the right phrases is super helpful. Let's start with making a reservation, calling them up.
Okay, so you call and they'll answer. Probably something like, "Thank you for calling restaurant name. How can I help you?"
And you state your purpose.
Exactly. "Hi, I'd like to make a reservation, please." You get the details. For Saturday evening,
What info do they need?
the basics. Date, time, and number of people. They'll ask, certainly, what time were you thinking of, and how many people will be in your party.
Party, meaning the group size, right? Not like a celebration.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just the number of diners. So you'd say around 7:30 p.m. for a party of 4, please.
Okay. What else?
They'll check availability. Hopefully they have a table. Then, okay, we can do 7:33. May I have your name and a contact number, please?
Standard stuff. Any other questions they might ask?
Sometimes about seating preference, like would you prefer indoor or outdoor seating? Or maybe about the occasion, though not always. And it's sometimes worth asking, is there a dress code?
Good question. What kind of answer might you get?
They might say, we recommend smart casual attire, which basically means look neat, but not necessarily a suit and tie.
Attire meaning clothes. Smart casual.
Okay. Then they'll confirm everything. All right, that's a reservation for 4 people. Under the name, your name for Saturday at 7:30. Is that all correct? And maybe offer a text confirmation.
Great. So key phrases. Make a reservation, party of 4. May I have your name and number?
Yep. And remember, being on time is important in many cultures. If you're running late, it's polite to call ahead.
Good cultural tip. Okay, fast forward. You're at the restaurant, seated. Time to order.
Right. The server approaches. Good evening. Can I start you off with some drinks while you look at the menu?
So you order drinks first, usually.
Often, yes. Then they might give you the menus, maybe mention the day's specials. Our specials tonight are the grilled sea bass and the mushroom risotto. Then I'll give you a few minutes to decide.
What if you need more information about a dish?
Absolutely fine to ask.
Yeah.
Excuse me, could you tell me a bit more about the risotto? What ingredients are in it? Or, is the chicken dish very spicy?
Okay. And when you're ready,
You signal the server, or they'll come back. You say, yes, I think we're ready to order. Then I'll have the steak, please. Or I'd like the pasta.
can you ask for modifications like no onions?
Definitely. You can say, could I have the salad, but with the dressing on the side, please? Or could you make the burger without cheese?
Dressing on the side is a common one.
Very common. The server will usually repeat the order back to confirm.
Okay. Vocabulary check. Specials are daily dishes. Vegetarian means no meat, and a side is a small accompanying dish. And pronunciation, that pasta dish.
Ah, risotto. It's risotto.
Got it. Now this is important. Dietary restrictions and allergies. How do you handle that?
Very carefully and clearly. It's crucial. You need to state it up front. Excuse me, I need to let you know I have a severe nut allergy. Could you please tell me which dishes are completely nut-free?
Be direct about it.
Absolutely. The server should take it seriously. They might say, okay, let me double check with the chef for you. You can also mention other preferences like, I'd prefer something dairy-free if possible.
And they should be able to guide you.
Yes, a good restaurant will. They might say, the grilled salmon is safe and we can prepare the vegetable stir-fry without nuts or dairy for you.
What if you're really concerned about traces of the allergen?
You can ask for extra care. Could you please ask the kitchen to be extra careful about cross-contamination? That's the key word.
Cross-contamination, when allergens accidentally get into food.
Exactly. You could even ask, would it be possible to use separate utensils in a clean pan? Most places understand the seriousness.
So be upfront, ask questions, use terms like allergy, dairy-free, nut-free, and cross-contamination.
Precisely. It's for your safety. Now, what if the issue isn't an allergy, but say the food isn't right, like your steak is cold?
Ugh, yeah. How do you complain politely?
Again, politeness first. Signal the server. Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you, but that softens it.
Good start.
But my steak seems to be quite cold. State the problem simply and clearly.
And the server's reaction?
They should apologize immediately. Oh, I'm very sorry about that. Then offer a solution. Would you like me to take it back to the kitchen to reheat it? Or would you prefer a freshly cooked one?
So you get a choice.
Usually,
Yeah.
you just state your preference. A fresh one would be great, thank you. They might also offer something small as an apology, like perhaps I can offer you a complimentary drink while you wait.
Complimentary again for apology?
Yes. And they might say, I'll ask the kitchen to expedite your order, meaning they'll rush it.
Expedite. Speed up. To speed up. Got it. So be polite, state the issue, and accept or suggest a solution.
That's the best way. Okay, final major scenario. Airports. Lots of specific language here.
Definitely. Let's start at the beginning, checking in for your flight.
Right. You go to the airline counter. The agent will likely say, good morning, afternoon. May I have your passport and boarding pass, please?
What if you haven't checked in online and don't have a boarding pass yet?
Just hand over your passport and say, I haven't checked in yet. They'll handle it. They'll confirm your destination, flying to London today, and ask about bags.
The big question, do you have any luggage to check?
Exactly. Check here means putting it in the cargo hold, not carry-on. If yes, you put your bag on the scale.
And hope it's not overweight.
Yes. They'll confirm the weight. Then often, do you have a seating preference, window or aisle?
Window for me.
Me too, usually. They'll assign your seat, print your boarding pass, and hand it back with your passport. They'll point out the key info. Okay, your flight boards at gate B12, and boarding begins at 3:45 p.m.
Gate number and boarding time. Crucial. Can you ask questions here?
Sure. Like, could you tell me where the nearest security entrance is? Or is there an airline lounge near the gate?
Right. And the interaction usually ends with,
A simple, enjoy your flight, or have a good trip.
okay, key terms. Passport, boarding pass, check luggage, window aisle seat, gate, boarding time, lounge. Have your documents ready.
Makes it much smoother. Next hurdle, security.
Yes, the security check. Can feel a bit impersonal.
It is. They have a process. You'll hear instructions like, please place all metal items, keys, phones, coins in the tray, and liquids, aerosols, and gels must be in a clear bag under 100 milliliters each.
The liquids rule, always tricky.
And laptops and large electronics out of your bag, please. Sometimes, please remove your shoes and belt.
Just follow the instructions, put everything in the trays.
Yep. Then they'll direct you. Please step through the scanner. You walk through, hopefully no beeps.
And if you're clear.
They'll wave you on. Okay, you're clear, or you're all set. Then you collect your belongings from the shoes on the other side.
Don't forget anything.
Good advice. The interaction usually ends quickly. Maybe you have a safe flight.
Okay, trays, scanner, liquids, electronics, belongings. Just listen carefully and do what they say.
That's the best approach. Now, what if things don't go smoothly? Flight delays.
Oh, the dreaded delay. How do you find out what's happening?
Go to the gate agent or the airline desk. Excuse me, I'm on flight BA123 to Paris. I see it's delayed. Can you tell me what's going on?
Be polite. State your flight.
Yes. They should explain. Yes, I apologize for the delay. There's a minor technical issue with the aircraft. Or maybe weather. We're currently estimating a delay of about 2 hours.
What if you have a connecting flight? That's the big worry.
That's when you need to speak up. Oh dear. I have a connection in Paris to Rome. My connection is quite tight. Will I still make it?
And the agent should check.
Yes, they'll look at your itinerary, your travel plan. They might say, it will be very close. Or, unfortunately, you will likely miss it. Then they should offer solutions. Let me see if I can rebook you on a later flight to Rome.
What about compensation, vouchers?
You can certainly ask, is the airline offering any assistance due to the delay? Meal vouchers, perhaps? Depending on the reason and length of delay, they might offer something like, we can offer you a $15 meal voucher. Or maybe a voucher for future travel.
Good to know. Keywords, delay, technical issue, connecting flight, itinerary, rebook, voucher, compensation. Patience helps here.
A lot of patience sometimes. Okay, final step. Actually boarding the plane.
The last hurdle before you can relax.
Almost. You'll hear announcements at the gate. We are now inviting passengers in Zone 1 to board, or we are now boarding float AC 456 to Toronto.
They call by zones or rows usually.
Yes. Please have your boarding pass and passport ready. You show it to the agent at the gate, they scan it, maybe tear off a stub. Welcome aboard, enjoy your flight.
Then down the jet bridge.
And at the aircraft door, a flight attendant will greet you. Hello, welcome. They might glance at your boarding pass and direct you. Your seat is 15A, that's to the left and halfway down.
Finding your seat, And finding space for your bag. The overhead bin battle.
Yeah, yes. If the bins near your seat are full, you might need to ask, excuse me, to the flight attendant, could you help me find a spot for my carry-on? Or, is there any space left in the overhead bins?
Overhead bin. That's the official term for the compartment above the seats.
That's it. They'll usually help you find a space, maybe rearrange things a bit.
Okay, so boarding zone, gate agent, flight attendant, welcome aboard, overhead bin. Got it.
Great. So those cover the main scenarios. Maybe we can touch on some general tips for sounding more polite or handling misunderstandings.
Good idea, like those softening phrases.
Exactly. Instead of just, I want to try, I was wondering if I could, or would it be possible to? It just sounds, less demanding. I'd be grateful if you could, is even more formal and polite.
And if you didn't understand something, it's okay to ask them to repeat.
Absolutely. Okay. Just say, sorry, could you repeat that, please? Or I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Maybe even just to clarify, did you mean?
Good ways to handle it without feeling awkward and showing gratitude.
Always nice. Beyond a simple thank you, you could say, I really appreciate your help with this, or that's very kind of you.
Little things that make a difference. Are there any sort of more advanced words that are useful in these contexts?
A few, maybe. Accommodate is a good one. Like, were you able to accommodate my request for a quiet room? It means to meet a need or request.
Okay, accommodate.
Promptly means quickly or without delay. Thank you for addressing the issue so promptly. And discrepancy means an error or difference, often used when checking a bill. Excuse me, I think there might be a small discrepancy on the bill.
Accommodate, promptly, discrepancy. Useful additions. Wow, this has been really thorough, covering hotels, restaurants, airports.
It really shows how a set of core phrases and politeness strategies can work across many situations, doesn't it?
It really does. Hopefully this deep dive gives you listening much more confidence next time you're traveling or, just interacting in English.
The key is practice. Don't be afraid to use these phrases. Adapt them. Make them your own. The more you use them, the more natural they'll feel.
Absolutely. Keep exploring. Keep practicing.
And remember, every conversation is a chance to learn.
So true. Well, if you found this deep dive helpful, we'd really appreciate it if you could like this video, share it with anyone else who might benefit.
And of course, subscribe to this YouTube channel for more language learning content from the Learn English Lab.
Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.
Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today, we're diving deep into a truly intriguing method for sharpening your English listening comprehension and really pushing you towards fluency. This concept we're calling sleep training. Now, as advanced learners, you're already, navigating complex grammar and a wide range of vocabulary. So the next frontier is that effortless understanding of spoken English, no matter the form it takes.
Right, that automatic processing.
Exactly. Think about those times you encounter an unfamiliar accent or maybe rapid-fire speech or those head-scratching idiomatic expressions.
Yeah.
And you wish your brain could just process it all automatically. Well, this exploration delves into a technique that works while you're resting to help you achieve that more intuitive grasp.
Sounds fascinating.
We'll be looking into why this might actually be effective and how you can realistically weave it into your language learning habits.
Good plan. Because, the ability to listen effectively is absolutely foundational for communication. It allows you to not only understand conversations, but also engage with various forms of media and really appreciate cultural nuances. And unlike reading or writing, listening demands that you process information in real time.
Yeah, there's no rewind button in a live conversation.
Precisely. Genuine fluency isn't just about getting the gist. It's about understanding effortlessly, whether it's, a casual chat or maybe a more formal presentation.
Sure.
When your listening fluency improves, you start to pick up on implied meanings. You can refine your own pronunciation by sort of naturally absorbing the way native speakers talk.
Through mimicry almost.
Kind of, yeah. Your vocabulary expands as you hear words used in context, and even your speaking skills benefit from the models of sentence structure you're constantly exposed to.
Right.
For advanced learners, the ultimate aim, really, is to move beyond simply understanding to processing English as naturally as you do your first language.
Absolutely. And you're right, at a higher level, the specific listening challenges become quite refined, don't they?
They really do.
We're talking about navigating the vast landscape of accents and dialects. British English, American English, Australian, Indian English, and so on, It's huge.
A lot of variety.
Then there's the sheer speed at which native speakers often communicate, with words blurring together and contractions popping up everywhere.
You're like gonna.
Like gonna instead of going to, exactly. And let's not forget the colorful world of idiomatic expressions.
Oh, those can be tricky.
Right. If someone tells you to kick the bucket and you're not familiar with the idiom, the literal image isn't exactly helpful.
Not at all.
Plus, real-world listening rarely happens in a quiet studio. There's often background noise to contend with.
True.
And then there's the challenge of absorbing complex information packed with specialized or abstract terminology.
Definitely.
So this idea of sleep training presents a genuinely interesting angle for tackling some of these persistent obstacles.
It does. What's particularly fascinating here is this notion of passively absorbing English audio things like podcasts, audiobooks, or even simple dialogues.
While you're sleeping.
Yeah, as you're drifting off to sleep, or perhaps even while you're actually asleep.
Okay.
The primary goal is to gently expose the brain to English input during a period when it might be particularly open to processing and solidifying new information.
So it's passive, low effort.
That's the idea. This approach is designed to be quite effortless, requiring very little conscious attention. And it's an idea that draws on research around how sleep and memory work together.
Okay, let's dig a little deeper into this. What's the underlying science? Why might our sleep actually be this untapped resource for language learning?
Well, sleep is absolutely critical for what we call memory consolidation.
Consolidation, right.
Which is essentially the process of taking those fragile short-term memories and converting them into more stable long-term ones.
Makes sense.
During sleep, the brain actively replays experiences, which helps to strengthen the neural connections associated with those memories.
So it's like practicing in your sleep.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
It also plays a role in filtering out less relevant information and integrating new knowledge with your existing understanding.
Okay.
Which ultimately makes it easier to recall that information later.
Got it.
For language learners, this implies that any English you hear before or during sleep can potentially be reinforced, making it more readily accessible when you're awake.
Interesting.
There's even some research suggesting that if certain memories are subtly cued during sleep, a process called targeted memory reactivation.
Targeted memory reactivation.
Yeah, it could lead to improvements in areas like vocabulary and even pronunciation.
Wow.
Think of sleep as your brain's dedicated English language processing unit, kind of running a background optimization program for fluency while you rest.
That's a really compelling idea. So how do we actually translate this into practice? What does applying sleep training to English listening look like in our daily routines?
Okay, the practical side involves setting up carefully selected audio to play at a low volume as you're going to sleep, or maybe while you're asleep.
Low volume is key, I imagine.
Absolutely. The key here is that the audio should be appropriate for your current level and your learning goals.
Right.
It should probably have some element of repetition to help with reinforcement.
Okay, repetition.
And the recording quality needs to be good, with minimal distracting background noise.
Yeah.
You don't want static keeping you up.
No, definitely not.
For advanced learners like yourselves, you might want to focus on more complex content, maybe lectures or in-depth conversations, to really build your familiarity with more sophisticated language structures.
So challenge yourself even in your sleep.
Gently, yes.
Yeah.
It's about exposure to the right kind of input.
Okay. So what are the tangible benefits we can expect from this? What kind of cognitive advantages and, I guess, real-world improvements in our listening can we anticipate?
Good question. From a cognitive perspective, consistently engaging in sleep training might lead to enhanced memory consolidation of those crucial auditory patterns in English.
The sounds and rhythms.
Exactly. This makes it easier to recognize words and phrases automatically when you hear them. It might also sharpen your ability to predict speech patterns.
Ah, like knowing what word might come next.
Sort of, yeah, because you're repeatedly exposed to English syntax and natural intonation in a passive way.
Okay.
And interestingly, this passive listening during sleep might also contribute to a reduction in the mental effort you typically expend on active study, potentially leading to a more effortless form of learning over time, less strain perhaps.
That sounds like a significant advantage. And in terms of actually improving our English skills day to day, what can we expect to see?
Well, in practical terms, regular exposure to a variety of accents during sleep could certainly enhance your ability to understand them when you encounter them awake.
That would be huge for many learners.
Definitely. You might also notice that your vocabulary retention improves as you hear words used naturally within a context over and over.
Context is everything.
It really is. Furthermore, sleep training can help you become more attuned to the natural rhythm and flow of English, which, surprisingly, can even have a positive knock-on effect on your own speaking fluency.
Really? How so?
By internalizing those natural patterns, your own speech might start to sound more, well, natural in its intonation and rhythm.
Fascinating. And thinking about the bigger picture, what's the potential long-term impact on our overall fluency?
Over time, consistent sleep training could contribute to a more intuitive way of listening.
Intuitive, like not having to translate in your head.
Exactly. Where you process spoken English without needing to consciously analyze every single word, much more like a native speaker does.
That's the goal, right?
That's the goal. This enhanced comprehension can naturally build your confidence in conversations and also lead to a richer appreciation of English-speaking cultures as you become more comfortable with authentic content.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly promising. So let's talk logistics. How do we actually establish a sleep training routine? What are the essential steps to make this a reality?
Right, to really maximize the effectiveness, there are a few key elements. First, try to establish a consistent time to play the audio.
Consistency. Got it.
Whether it's just as you're falling asleep or maybe throughout the night at a very low volume, experimentation is needed there.
Find out what works for your sleep.
Absolutely. Second, ensure that your sleep environment is as conducive to rest as possible. Quiet, dark, comfortable. The usual sleep hygiene stuff.
Good point.
Finally, aim for a regular practice schedule. Perhaps 5 to 7 nights a week.
That committed.
Well, consistency helps, with sessions lasting anywhere from about 30 minutes to maybe 2 hours, depending on what feels right for you and doesn't disrupt your sleep.
Right. Start small, maybe.
That's a good approach.
And when it comes to the actual audio we're listening to, what kind of materials should advanced learners like our listeners be prioritizing?
Yeah, for those at an advanced level, it's most beneficial to select audio that features complex vocabulary and a diverse range of sentence structures.
So not just basic dialogues.
Probably not, no. Think about resources like TED Talks, in-depth BBC podcasts, maybe even full-length audiobooks.
Okay.
The content should ideally be something that genuinely interests you, whether it's science, literature, history, whatever holds your attention, even passively.
So engagement still matters, even passively.
It seems to help maintain some level of brain engagement, yes. And crucially, make sure you are using high-quality recordings, free from distortion or excessive background noise.
Quality matters. Got it. Can you offer us some specific examples of good audio resources that would be suitable for this kind of practice?
Certainly. For podcasts, something like the TED Interview or maybe Radio Lab or even The Economist Radio could be excellent choices for advanced learners that use rich language.
Good suggestions.
For audiobooks, nonfiction titles like, say, Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari or classic works of fiction like Pride and Prejudice offer a wealth of complex language used naturally.
Lots to choose from there.
Definitely. And don't overlook the vast resources of free online lectures available from platforms like Coursera or university open courseware sites. They often delve into fascinating subjects in great detail.
Right, tapping into academic language.
Exactly.
Those are some fantastic suggestions. Now, are there any particular strategies or best practices we should keep in mind to really get the most out of this sleep training approach?
Yes, there are a few things that can make a significant difference. It can be particularly helpful to begin with audio that you've already listened to actively.
So start with familiar material.
Yes, that initial familiarity can aid in the subconscious processing. Also, consider replaying the same audio for several consecutive nights.
Repetition again.
Repetition helps reinforce the learning. It's also vital, as we said, to ensure that the volume is low enough that it doesn't disrupt your sleep cycle. Find that sweet spot.
Crucial.
And it can be encouraging to periodically check in with yourself. See if you notice any subtle improvements in your comprehension or your ability to recall new vocabulary. Maybe keep a small journal.
Track your progress. That makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like this sleep training isn't intended to be the only method we use, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
How does it ideally complement our other listening practice strategies?
That's a key point. It really works best when it's integrated with your other language learning activities. Think of it as a powerful supplement to your active listening practice.
Like a boost.
Exactly. For instance, you might actively listen to a podcast episode during the day, maybe taking notes, summarizing key points, and then play that same episode passively at night.
Combine active and passive.
That combination of conscious engagement followed by subconscious reinforcement can be remarkably effective for some people.
Okay. And what about well-known techniques like, say, shadowing and repetition? How do they fit into this overall picture?
Good question. Shadowing, where you essentially repeat what you're hearing in real time.
Trying to match the speaker.
Yes. It's an excellent way to improve your pronunciation and intonation. You can certainly incorporate short segments from the audio you're using for sleep training into your shadowing practice during the day.
Makes sense.
And repetition, as we've touched on, listening to the same audio multiple times, but consciously focusing on different aspects each time, like new vocabulary or specific grammar, that significantly deepens comprehension and retention.
So different ways to reuse the same material.
Absolutely. Get the most out of it.
And for those challenging moments when we inevitably miss a word or two while listening actively, how can we become better at using context to understand the meaning?
Right. Context clues are vital. As advanced learners, you have the capacity to use them quite effectively. Pay close attention to any synonyms or restatements the speaker might use.
Okay.
The overall tone of voice, the emotions being conveyed. These can also provide valuable hints about the underlying meaning.
Body language, too, if you can see them.
True, if it's video, but even just audio, the tone tells you a lot. And sometimes understanding cultural references can be key to deciphering idioms or grasping humor.
Right, the cultural layer.
It's really about training yourself to become more attuned to all these subtle cues within the spoken language.
Are there any common mistakes or, pitfalls we should actively try to avoid when focusing on our listening skills, both with sleep training and just general practice?
Yes, definitely. One frequent mistake is becoming overly dependent on subtitles.
Ah, the subtitle trap.
Exactly. While they can be a helpful tool initially, it's important to gradually reduce your reliance on them so you're truly training your ear, not just your reading speed.
Good advice.
Another common pitfall is not exposing yourself to a wide enough range of accents. It's easy to stick to what's comfortable. Make a conscious effort to include diverse English accents in the audio you use for both active listening and sleep training. Challenge yourself.
Embrace the variety.
Yes. And finally, consistency is absolutely key. Sporadic practice, listening once a week.
Probably won't cut it.
It won't yield the same benefits as making listening a regular part of your daily routine. Even short active sessions combined with nightly sleep training add up.
Daily habit. Got it. On a practical note, what kind of technology and tools can really support a sleep training routine for language learning?
Sure. There are quite a few helpful options available these days. Apps like Audible and Spotify are excellent for accessing audiobooks and podcasts.
Right, huge libraries.
And they often offer features for creating and managing playlists, which is useful for repetition. BBC Sounds is another great resource, providing a wealth of free news, documentaries, and radio dramas.
Good free option.
You might also explore apps like Sleep Cycle, some of which have functionalities for playing audio during lighter phases of sleep, though that's getting more advanced.
Interesting tech.
For comfortable overnight listening, Bluetooth sleep headphones, the soft headband kind, can be a worthwhile investment.
To avoid uncomfortable earbuds.
Exactly. Yeah. Or you can simply use a smart speaker set to a very, very low volume. Creating your own custom playlists that include a mix of familiar and new content and updating them regularly can also help keep your brain passively engaged.
Keep it fresh. It's always encouraging to hear that these kinds of methods have actually worked for other learners. Do you have any specific examples or maybe success stories you could share with us?
Certainly. Real examples help. Consider Maria from Brazil. She was already at an advanced level, but found understanding fast-paced speech and various American accents particularly challenging.
A common issue.
Very common. By consistently sleep training with podcasts like This American Life for about an hour each night, she reported a noticeable improvement in her comprehension of American accents.
Wow.
And felt significantly more confident in spoken discussions within about 3 months.
3 months? That's pretty quick.
Relatively, yes, with consistent effort. Then there's Ahmed from Egypt, a university professor who wanted to improve his ability to follow complex academic lectures in English for his work.
Okay, specific goal.
Right. He began using sleep training with recordings of lectures from Coursera that were relevant to his field. He would listen to the same lecture passively at night for an entire week.
A full week on one lecture?
Yes, combined with active note-taking during the day. And within roughly 6 weeks, he found that he could follow these complex lectures much more easily without needing to pause or rewind nearly as often.
That's impressive. So targeted repetition really helped him.
It seems so, yes. The combination worked.
Those are truly inspiring examples. Now, I'm sure some of our listeners might have a few initial questions or perhaps some concerns about trying this out. What are some of the common things people ask about sleep training for language learning?
Good point. One common concern is whether listening to audio during sleep will actually disrupt their sleep quality.
Yeah, I wondered that too.
And it's a valid concern.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, if the volume is kept very low and the content is relatively calming, maybe not a thriller audiobook, it's unlikely to cause significant sleep disturbance for most people. But it might take a little experimentation to find the optimal volume level for you personally.
Individual thing.
Very much so. Another frequent question is about how long it typically takes to see any noticeable results.
Yeah, when do I get fluent?
Well, fluency is a journey. But for seeing some improvement from sleep training, most learners who practice consistently report observing some level of positive change within about 4 to 8 weeks.
Okay, so a month or two of consistency.
That seems to be a common time frame to notice something. Finally, some people wonder if they could use music instead of spoken audio.
Music with English lyrics.
Possibly. But while music certainly has its own benefits for mood and maybe some vocabulary exposure, for the specific goal of improving listening comprehension and internalizing language patterns,
Spoken word is better.
spoken content is generally considered more effective as it provides the direct linguistic input, the sentence structures, the intonation, the connected speech that your brain needs to process for language learning.
That makes sense. Well, this has been a remarkably insightful discussion.
Glad to chat about it.
It really does sound like sleep training offers a unique and, importantly, relatively effortless way for all of you advanced learners to continue refining your English listening abilities.
A potential tool in the toolkit.
Exactly. By consistently exposing your brain to the English language while you're resting, you can reinforce what you've already learned, become more comfortable with a wider range of speakers and accents, and ultimately move closer to that more natural, intuitive level of fluency. Worth exploring. Remember to experiment, though. Try different types of audio, find a routine that integrates smoothly into your daily life, and listen to your body regarding sleep quality.
Good advice.
We really encourage you to give this method a try and see how it might further enhance your language learning journey. And if you found this deep dive helpful, please do like, share, and subscribe to the Learn English Lab YouTube channel for more insights and practice.